It was just past midnight when Ravi, a rideshare driver, logged in to take a few more rides before heading home. The city streets were quiet, bathed in the amber glow of streetlights. Ravi had been driving for 3 years and thought he'd seen it all: drunken passengers, endless small talk, and even the occasional awkward silence. But that night, something felt different. His phone pinged, signaling a new ride request. The pickup point was a desolate stretch near an old industrial area. Ravi hesitated but accepted. He figured it was probably a shift worker needing a late ride home. When Ravi pulled up to the location, no one was there. The area was eerily quiet, the only sound being the faint hum of his car engine. He glanced at the app, double-checked the address, and waited. Just as he was about to cancel the ride, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, thin man dressed in dark, outdated clothing. He didn't look at Ravi as he approached the car, keeping his head low, the brim of his hat obscuring his face. The man opened the back door and slid in without a word. "Good evening. Where are we headed?" Ravi asked, trying to sound cheerful. The passenger handed him a piece of paper with an address scribbled on it. The handwriting was shaky, almost childlike. Ravi glanced at the address. It was on the outskirts of the city, near an area he wasn't familiar with. "All right," Ravi said, trying to brush off the unease creeping into his chest. He started the ride. The man sat motionless in the back seat, his face obscured in the dim light. Ravi tried making small talk, a routine he'd perfected over the years. "Long night?" No response. "Heading home from work?" Silence. Ravi glanced at the rearview mirror. The passenger was staring straight ahead, his hands resting unnaturally still on his lap. Ravi's grip on the wheel tightened. Something about the man's presence felt wrong. As they drove, the cityscape faded into the darkness of the outskirts. The silence in the car became suffocating, broken only by the faint hum of the tires on the road. Ravi tried turning on the radio to lighten the mood, but the static was deafening, no matter which station he tuned to. The GPS guided them to a narrow, unlit road surrounded by dense trees. Ravi's headlights illuminated the cracked pavement and overgrown weeds. Finally, the address came into view: a dilapidated house with boarded-up windows, its roof partially caved in. Ravi pulled over, his heart racing. We're here," he said, his voice trembling slightly. The man didn't move. Ravi turned around, ready to repeat himself, but the back seat was empty. His heart stopped. The passenger had vanished, leaving no sound, no trace, nothing. Ravi's breath quickened as he searched the back seat, his hands trembling. "Impossible," he whispered to himself. He had seen the man get in. Shaking, Ravi checked the app. The ride was marked as completed. Confused and terrified, he stared at the screen, noticing something odd. The ride history showed a different name, one he didn't recognize, and a timestamp from years ago. Ravi's eyes darted back to the house. In the dim glow of his headlights, he noticed something that made his blood run cold: a faded photograph nailed to the front door. It showed a man in a dark coat and hat, staring blankly at the camera. It was the passenger. Ravi didn't wait to piece together the mystery. He slammed the car into reverse and sped away, his hands gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The entire drive home, he felt like he was being watched, though the rearview mirror showed nothing but the empty back seat. The next morning, Ravi told his friend, a local historian, about the incident. His friend grew pale when Ravi mentioned the address. "That house? It's been abandoned for decades. A man who used to live there disappeared under mysterious circumstances, in 1957. Ravi never drove that route again. Though he tried to forget, every so often, he'd glance at his rearview mirror late at night, half expecting to see a dark figure sitting silently in the back seat.